Manchester United's attack has been stagnant, predictable, and painfully underwhelming. 44 goals in the Premier League last season, the club's lowest tally in over 3 decades. For a club of this stature, that's not just a number, it's a crisis. That's why this summer, Manchester United acted boldly. £71 million for Bryan Mbeumo, £62.5 million for Matheus Cunha. 2 players with very different styles, but one shared mission: reignite the fire that once made United terrifying in transition. These aren't just transfers, they're tactical recalibrations. They're not about stardom, they're about solving specific problems. In this video, we go deeper. We'll analyze the strengths, the flaws, the fit. What kind of footballer is Mbeumo really? What makes Cunha both magical and maddening? And most importantly, will these two finally give United a real attacking identity? Let's begin with Bryan Mbeumo, the man Amorim believes will unlock the right side of United's front three. He's 25, entering his prime, and coming off the best season of his career. 20 goals, 7 assists. In a Brentford shirt. That's not just production, that's elite-level end product from a team outside the traditional top 6. But stats don't capture the full picture. What makes Mbeumo valuable is his clarity of role and his tactical intelligence. He doesn't dazzle with flicks or tricks. Instead, he's ruthlessly efficient. He finds space, times his runs, and strikes with precision. He's a left-footer, usually operating on the right flank, which allows him to cut inside into dangerous zones. But unlike many modern inverted wingers, he doesn't just look for highlight reel curlers. He attacks the box, finishes with either foot, and moves without the ball like a striker. Let's break down his key strengths. Composure in finishing. He doesn't snatch at chances, he waits, he picks his spot. Intelligent movement, especially in transitions. He always arrives at the right moment. Pressing work rate. Mbeumo ranked among the top forwards in high-intensity recoveries in the final third. Tactical discipline. He knows when to stay wide, when to overload, and when to drop. In short, he's not flashy, he's functional. Not a superstar, but a system player who raises the ceiling of the entire front line. No player is flawless, and Bryan Mbeumo is no exception. For all his efficiency, he does have limitations, especially when space is denied. At Brentford, he thrived in a team that played deep and countered into space. But at Manchester United, particularly in home games against low blocks, those spaces may not exist. Mbeumo will be forced to operate in tighter zones, and that's where some cracks appear. Under pressure, his decision-making can waver. In congested areas, he sometimes chooses the safe pass rather than attempting the riskier, more decisive ball. He's not a natural 1v1 dribbler, so if a fullback shuts down the inside cut, he can become predictable. Another concern: consistency. Though he scored 20 goals last season, his expected goals, XG, was significantly lower. That suggests possible overperformance, something hard to replicate in a high-pressure environment like Old Trafford. And finally, the mental leap. Going from Brentford to United means going from freedom to spotlight. Every misplaced pass, every missed shot will be magnified. The media, the fans, the noise. Some players elevate under pressure, others shrink. Which version of Mbeumo will United get? If Mbeumo is precision and structure, then Matheus Cunha is energy and improvisation. He's not the kind of player you build a system around, but he's exactly the type you plug into a system to inject chaos. At 25, Cunha is entering his prime with a toolkit that's hard to label. He scored 15 goals and provided 6 assists for Wolves last season. Strong numbers for a side often starved of service. But more than the output, it's the way he plays that makes him special. Cunha operates on instinct. He receives the ball in awkward positions and turns pressure into momentum. He thrives in broken play, in unstructured moments, situations where other attackers hesitate. Let's look at his key strengths. Versatility. Cunha can play as a false 9, a a second striker, or drift wide into overloads. Ball carrying. He averages over 3 progressive carries per 90 minutes. Excellent for breaking defensive lines. Creativity under pressure. When opponents close down space, Cunha doesn't panic. He finds ways to release teammates. Pressing intensity. Like Mbeumo, he presses high, but with more aggression and unpredictability. And perhaps most importantly, he's brave. Cunha is not afraid to fail. He tries the flick, the spin, the impossible pass, and when it works, it changes the game. That willingness to take risks makes him erratic, yes, but also the kind of player who can unlock a tight match in a single moment. Cunha's greatest strength, his unpredictability, is also his biggest risk. Let's start with decision-making. While he's capable of brilliance, Cunha often tries to do too much. He'll take on one man too many, attempt the spectacular when a simple pass would do, or lose possession in dangerous zones. It's not about selfishness, it's impulse. And impulse doesn't always align with structure. There's also inconsistency. One week, Cunha looks like a world beater. The next, he drifts out of games entirely. He thrives on chaos, but chaos isn't always present. When matches become slow and methodical, Cunha can become disconnected and ineffective. Another issue is his off-ball discipline. While he presses aggressively, he doesn't always press smartly. He'll break shape, chase shadows, or leave gaps behind, which can destabilize a system like Amorim's that relies on synchronized pressure. Finally, there's temperament. Cunha plays with emotion, which can be fuel or fire. When focused, he's fearless, but when frustrated, he can lose his edge, his positioning, or even his cool. He's had moments of brilliance and moments of recklessness, and at a club like United, those moments will be magnified. For Amorim, the challenge will be clear. Can he harness Cunha's chaos without letting it unravel the system? With Mbeumo and Cunha now in the squad, Manchester United's attack is no longer one-dimensional. And the most fascinating part, how these two contrast, not only with each other, but with Rasmus Højlund. Let's break it down. Rasmus Højlund is a traditional number 9 in a modern shell. He's strong, fast, and explosive in transition, but still raw when it comes to link-up play and composure in front of goal. He thrives when he has service, but struggles when isolated. Bryan Mbeumo, by contrast, is about intelligent movement and ruthless finishing. He doesn't need many touches. He finds space, presses relentlessly, and delivers final product with precision. He plays wide, but ends his actions like a striker. Matheus Cunha, meanwhile, is chaos personified. He's the unpredictable one, the player who turns structure into opportunity. He drops deep to carry the ball, combines in tight areas, and destabilizes defensive lines with his unpredictability. How do they complement each other? Højlund provides vertical runs and physical presence. Mbeumo offers balance, pressing, spacing, and end product. Cunha adds creative spark, dribbling, and tactical disruption. Together, they offer variety United hasn't had in years. No longer is the team reliant on one player to both score and create. Instead, Amorim now has a front three with contrast and chemistry. So, after all the data, the tape, the theory, what's the verdict? Are Bryan Mbeumo and Matheus Cunha the answer to United's attacking problems? Not on their own, but that's not the point. They are not marquee names. They are not guaranteed 25-goal monsters, but they fit. They solve tactical problems. They add variety, energy, structure, and most importantly, identity. United's attack has long suffered from a lack of balance. Too much reliance on individual brilliance, too little collective cohesion, too few players who press, move, or adapt without the ball. Mbeumo and Cunha may not be perfect, but they represent a shift in thinking. These are players signed for a system, not just for shirts or headlines. And under Amorim, system is king. Of course, there are risks. Mbeumo might struggle to replicate Brentford form under pressure. Cunha's volatility could disrupt rhythm. Chemistry takes time. But if it works, if Amorim can mold their chaos and precision into one synchronized unit, then Manchester United may finally have what they've lacked since the Ferguson era, an attacking identity with purpose, not just moments, but mechanisms. And that's not just a signing, that's a strategy.